prepare for Bryant. Bryant's a tough football team. Recently, you know, they beat, I think last year or the last couple of years, they beat JMU, they beat Maine. They gave Liberty a very, very good game at Liberty. And when you don't normally play in stadiums like that, and you come down and you play in that type of stadium for the first time, and you really hold your own, you know, that really says something about them. I know Marty Fine personally. I think he does a great job coaching the fundamentals. His scheme, he knows that inside out, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. They're always going to be good special team-wise. They have the ability to both run and throw the ball offensively. They'll power at you, and they'll have to do a great job with play action, sprint out, that type of thing. From a defensive perspective, they're the number 3 defense in the country. They're the number 1 defense in the country in terms of turnover margin. They are one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the country inside the red zone. They're one of the top defenses in the country in terms of 3rd down and 4th down conversions. They are a good football team. They don't play in the type of league that we play in, but outside that league, they play tough teams, and they hold up very, very well against them. So we're taking this game very, very seriously. We know they're going to come down ready to play because they've beaten Maine on the road, because they've beaten JMU on the road, because they really gave the Liberty team in that type of environment a really good game a year ago. They believe they can come down here and beat us. We know that, we understand that. We can't worry about any of that. We got to take care of business and make sure we're well prepared, and I have no doubt we'll do that. Questions? Men?
How's Alex Ross doing?
His ankle's still a little sore. We're anticipating he'll be ready to go, but his ankle's still bothering him. He was in practice yesterday. He wasn't wearing a boot, but the ankle's still sore.
I know his injury happened in the pocket, but how do you balance what he can do in the run game by also wanting to protect him and not put him out there for more hits?
I think that's a great question, Ryan, in the sense that that's what Dave and I talk about on a pretty regular basis. So remember what he can do. He knows the offense inside out. He knows the offense as well as the coaches know it. And so his ability then to manage the game after a call comes in, dependent upon what they give us, is pretty significant. So he can just get us out of trouble by calling the right play, number 1. He doesn't have to run the ball at all. But a big piece of the offense is if you're going to give us the quarterback run, we're going to take advantage of that. Clearly, if he is running the ball or if he is sprinting out and doing any of those things, you know, you always run the risk that he can get another ankle sprain. But the sprain is going to happen once in a while. If he's good and ready to go, you know, I have no doubt he's going to go. And if for some reason he can't go, we'll pull him out. Or if we thought that he really wasn't able to be as effective as what he would like him to be, we'll pull him. But I think it's a matter of he's in there, he understands what he needs to do. He understands that as well as Dave. So between the two of them, they're going to make the right decision most of the time. And if at some point he's not ready to go, then Mike Church will be ready to go, and he's done a great job for us whenever he's been in there in the past.
I saw Calvin in practice yesterday. Is he okay?
He banged up his elbow the other day. He got elbow shoulder issue, and so I'd say right now he could play, but he's a question mark.
So Quinn's going to be recognized on Saturday. I know he's not on this year's team, but does he have some kind of impact on this year's team? How would you sort of raise that?
He has an impact on this year's team in a number of ways. First of all, anybody that's been part of our program's history is part of the legacy that we have, especially kind of the BAMIR in terms of what we've done over the span of the last few years. He's been an intricate part of that. He's been our leader the last 3 years, not just in terms of accolades as a player. He's been captain 2 years with our guys, and that part by itself is unusual. So what he did was for us set a standard for us in terms of linebacker play and defensive play and leadership that the other guys recognize and need to be able to live up to. We're not asking other guys to be Quinn, but Quinn has set the standard, and that has a positive impact on our guys. And by the way, he comes around quite a bit, and the guys are always happy to see him. So he's had incredibly positive impact on us in the past, and that spirit stays with you. That's part of what we build on.
You mentioned their defense. What specifically did they do really well that sets them apart defensively?
I think they do I think they do a good job. They're big and they're strong. They do a good job of just getting to the ball. I think they're very, very sound. I think they mix up kind of the pressures, and we're kind of showing some of the zone stuff, some of the man stuff. They'll play 3 deep. They'll play man free. They'll want to bring in some pressure. But I think what they do is they execute well. So you might beat them. You might beat them because you're doing a little better job of executing than what they are, but they're going to have the right guy in the right place at the right time, as opposed to 2 guys in the wrong gap. Now you gash him and you pick up 25 yards. We didn't quite cover the guy. We're open by 2 yards. We're going to get a big gain out of that. You know, they'll be well prepared, and they'll make sure that they have their gaps and their men covered. Our gaps and our men covered.
If Calvin can't go, who starts there?
McFarland.
Any other starters expected to be out? They're questionable.
I don't think so. I think we should be okay, but I don't think so.
Voghens, what do you make of this Bryant defense that you're about to take on here? Coach just said they do a great job of getting to the ball. What have you noticed looking at film?
Looking at film so far, those guys play very hard, and they're very sound defense. They get to the gaps. They don't make many mistakes. As far as the defensive line, they try to confuse you on the kind of fronts they have, and we've been practicing that, and we should be fine.
For both guys, what did it mean to see the crowd support last game and the student support especially?
It was awesome. It was probably the best crowd I've seen at a home game since I've been here. And, just the energy level, especially in the third down for the defense, everybody's cheering. It was just very energetic. I enjoyed it.
I would say for myself, it honestly felt good. We felt appreciated. And it just made me want to go harder. And, I think that's probably the loudest I ever seen in a stadium. That last drive, I was cramping up a lot, and I just knew I had to keep going, and pulled it out to the end.
Through 3 games, defense has had 1 really great performance and 2 where you give up a lot of yards. What's your evaluation at this point? What's the one area you got to shore up a little bit and be more consistent in?
I would say our biggest issue right now is that we have to consistently do the ordinary things extraordinary well, like Coach always says. So when we are communicating with each other and echoing calls back to each other, it's flawless. But those mental breakdowns come from us not communicating with each other and probably focusing more on too much of what we got to do individually instead of getting collectively together. But when we all together, it's 100% on go.
We discussed the Bryant defense. What do you see offensively from them?
Offense, they're really into the 12 and 21 personnel. They like to try to throw a lot of reverse plays and things like that at you. Reverse passes, trick plays is their thing, and leads and big boy football kind of. So we'll be in a lot of our big personnel and things like that.
2 games or 3 games in, 2 of them 1-possession games. How important is it to have that big game experience this early in the season?
Yeah, this is very important to have that early in the season. We've been tested early, so that'll definitely help us later in the year. Playing games like that always help you know what kind of team you have. A team that can fight in the fourth quarter is something like every coach looks for. And for us to pull out in those fourth quarter wins and play those games is very helpful to our team.
Why do you guys think you win so many close games?
I say because we do a lot of situational things at practice. So we do the 3rd and 9, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 3, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3. They put us in the situation, so then when we're put in those situations, we can excel. So for example, at the end of practice, coach will put the field goal team up, and he'll have the whole team screaming at Granger. And if he makes it, we got 2 sprints. If he misses it, we got 6 sprints. So we're just used to being put under pressure, and like in the loud atmospheres and things like that. We just used to being put in those situations.
Yeah, to capitalize on that, our coaches really try to emphasize game speed in our practices, just game atmosphere. The thing that I realized starting last year was that our practice wasn't that much different from the game. Just like even how the scout guys plays us. Everybody goes hard. I think that's why we're successful as a team.
Voghens, Alex hurt his ankle in the first play of the game last week. But he played through it as always. How did you see it affect him, or what was he fighting through with that?
Yeah, Alex is one of the toughest quarterbacks I've ever protected or played with. It really didn't affect him as much, just like he was a little bit slower, obviously, because of the sprained ankle. But his throwing motion was still great, and he was still communicating well. He was still the same Alex I was protecting. So hopefully he's the same this weekend. He was trying to run around a little bit yesterday. I was like, he's up there.
What's your critique of this new look line? Lost 3 guys that were key components last year. So it's maybe a new identity. How would you assess the guys' performance in 3 games?
Yeah, the guys they've been playing well so far. We've been communicating very well together. We're coming together. I know it's still a long road ahead of us, but Coach Cove is, he emphasizes on communication and playing hard. The thing he wants to see is that we do our technique. Our technique, no matter who's in front of us, if we do our technique, we'll protect the quarterback. If we keep Alex up